Well, shoot, it just kind of hit me. Oh my God. A Joe Rogan of the left. And I know, people are like, oh, well, Joe Rogan. No, 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 no. Why would you need a Joe Rogan? Think about that. I mean, I started to like walk through that phrase and something, it just sprung out on me that I'm like, that's actually kind of a weird idea. When you really think about like, okay, well, what does the Democratic Party need to win? They need a winner. They need somebody who's not like just kind of a loser who has a lot of sort of artificial TV clout behind them, and just the news saying just how incredibly brilliant, just people who are not brilliant are, and are quite demonstrably so. Like Bernie Sanders is not brilliant. He is above average intelligence. There's not really something that brilliant about him. This is why he's never really going through a lot of deep math. This is why he never exposes like government overspending or something wrong with it. He doesn't do this well in any way. It's because he's not really some ingenious person who knows how to find, the that's not what he does. He doesn't solve problems. And then when you actually learn about his life, you end up kind of coming away from it kind of like, okay, this guy lived a really kind of weird life. Like, it's kind of like a hippie dirtbag, actually. Like you would think of this, you would think now of somebody like Bernie Sanders as sort of like a homeless loser who knocked some woman up at some point, and lived. He like literally lived in some form of like work shack or something, and it just was bizarre. Like to hear his like early sort of like he refused to like get a real job. Like he absolutely refused to get a real job. He's one of these people who thinks work is for suckers. Inherently, real work is for suckers. And so I started walking through, why would you need a Joe Rogan of the left if you just had winners who had good rapport with the audience? You don't have winners who have a rapport with the voting public. Your own constituents frequently kind of rebel against you. If you're a Democrat, they rebel against you, and this is frequently. And then it becomes these speeches that really Gavin Newsom has sort of dialed it in perfectly. He's made this truly like a kata that he goes through, such that now people have gotten decades of Gavin Newsom speeches and certain phrases that he says that they just line them up. So issue by issue, they line up. What does Gavin Newsom say about this? And I think his phrase is always, we're going to fight to do this or that, because apparently fighting is what politics is about for Democrats, rather than we're going to solve a problem through good planning and engineering. It's never, we're going to solve this problem. Here's our plan. Here's the math, and so now I've been thinking about, I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter if you have a Joe Rogan of the left in some way, if he just asks dumbass questions. Where Rogan asks questions that are good and probing, and most people who are relatively intelligent are like, yeah, great, he asked that question because I was just thinking that. And anybody who has a problem with that, it's like, good, lose. Good, have a problem with that and lose. We will continue winning. We like to. And you still need a Joe Rogan. You don't even have somebody for Joe Rogan to talk to. You don't even have a person for Joe Rogan to speak to that's worth listening to on your side anymore. And then there's that issue that I found somebody was like more and more, there's a lot of young people on YouTube. Uh-oh, lone duck. The lone duck. Chilling. He's like, you don't see me. I'm not here. Whatever. He's like, this is fine. Whatever. This is fine. I'm just alone. It's fine. But there was a young person who posted some short, and it was about like sort of the being aghast at like destiny positing this idea that the violence and this and so really with this idea of like that people are buying that people are buying it anymore. You know, that they're like, oh, it's because, see, these people aren't being given their due process, and that's just like violence done by Antifa. You know, it's the same thing. It's extremely equivalent. Now, this is the kind of thing, like, it's kind of interesting with somebody like Hassan's another one that, you know, when they kind of purport that there's some reason for political violence and stuff, an exchange of melee and who knows, the brigandry and skullduggery and hooliganism and such like. That when they posit this kind of thing, it makes it very clear they never dealt with that kind of violence growing up. Like they obviously really did not deal with that kind of violence growing up. They don't know how awful like violence is. They've never seen something really terrible or heard a story about somebody that you're just you kind of realize like, oh, that bunch of guys wasn't playing, but you're a kid, so you can't really process what they did to your friend. And you kind of don't want to see what they did to your friend, but you realize you don't want to play violence anymore. And so you do other things. You find other people to be around because the violent kids will do terrible things to your friend. And maybe you too. And really, and now I'm even remembering how you had to be real slick all the time. Shoot, oh my God. All it took was just having a friend, knowing some chick in the 80s, and you would have some cat shouting off a bus at you about some girl, and you're just trying to play cool so he doesn't get off the bus and kick your just, and that's how that was. That's real violence. That's what cultures of violence are like. That was San Francisco, California, in the 80s and 90s. And a lot of people don't understand that. They can't fathom trying to figure out how to get weapons and hide them from your parents because you don't know what's going to happen to you on the way to and from school. You're one of those kids who goes to the magnet school. So black kids like showing up, black kids like showing up because they're like, oh, these are the nerds. We could rob them. Because the blacks rob you. That's what they do in cultures of violence. These shitlibs never face this. And now it's coming to this point of there will never be an apology, and get used to that. Feel that all the way deep down in your fucking, the Kool-Aid in your veins. Go tap into the fucking marshmallow that's at the pit of your bones. Milk thistle men. Milk thistle men. Bird bones. And I know there's a bunch of, oh, fuck you, ooga booga, I'm a lunatic and I get violent. And then that's the other thing. That's why we don't have to apologize to you. You guys are lunatics. You're fucking lunatics. Look at what you fucking did to San Francisco. There's no Jack London Square anymore in fucking Oakland. The fucking Berkeley Marina. They people have to probably they have had to hire extra private security at the Berkeley Marina. Most likely, the way that was going. The mall in the center of downtown. There's nothing there without that mall. The financial sector, the Embarcadero, the entire Embarcadero complex. What was a kind of this concept of like the image of the future of upscale living, and it's totally shut down. There's almost no. I don't think there's anything open in the Embarcadero shopping complex anymore. Good work, wackos. That because only wackos could do that to Paradise. To a city that was one of the most important financial centers in the history of humanity. I mean, like, at the point that you get to this period of time, you're talking about a financial center in the Embarcadero area. What the hell? Oh, I guess it is 3-something. In the Embarcadero area, then, I mean, this is one of the most important financial centers on the planet. And in my lifetime, it's the amount of money, the amount of financing, the amount of all that's happened. It's maintained that importance, but well, up until very recently. And now one of these places that, I mean, it's just the amount of money that was being managed there, and I really, I got opportunities to get a little glimpse of how, like, that the life in the financial sector was, and how you've upended something, because to be a finance sector kind of person in that, like, you have to have, there's the daily parking, there's the understanding of the traffic flow, and then there's all the trucks and shit that are in this incredibly old part of San Francisco that the roads aren't widened, and there's nothing but skyscrapers. So there's also no sun that quite penetrates very well. It's a real weird part of the city. But the thing is, it's so important, and that then you get to like places like Portland where their shopping centers are all shut down. Now everybody's trying across the West Coast trying to sell the shopping centers and sell the malls because there's not even the finance to refurbish them into housing. Because who's going to give credit to the wackos who live on fucking West Coast? I mean, and really, like, at some point you're going to just have to understand that's reality. There's risk involved in financing stuff, and so it's one of these things of like, will they ever get their money back? Nobody's playing this game with anything that's not assured. And more, of course, the issue is then, can I trust you with my money? And the big deal is, at some point, this is going to be what that business really is. A business reliant on trust. And honor is not your bailiwick. As I keep having to point out over and over again. I mean, just the idea that there's kind of an admission, some piece of video where there's an admission by Destiny that, you know, it's that he'll not know something and he'll just argue for the sake of arguing. And I was aware of when he admitted that at one time he was like a pro-Bush, pro-Iraq war, like evangelical doofus. in his youth, and used to always argue for that. And so it's one of these things of like, oh, okay, so you really are essentially a person who relies on not being very knowledgeable. It also is a matter of time. A lot of the people on the left, you're not getting, when you're young, you haven't had time to learn things, because it's just the fucked up truth. No matter the technology, no matter the method of speed reading, no matter somebody AI doing this, that, or the other, the human mind takes time to take information in and kind of run it through the network of all of the things that you've thought of before, and then thinking of something you haven't thought of before. That's why I didn't make videos really until my latest 30s, almost 40 years old, because I just was like, I didn't really know that much. In my 30s, I just fundamentally, I thought I was relearning everything. Kind of put myself back through college. That's why I have all those fucking books. I think about that now and then. I'm like, where's the money? And then I'm like, oh yeah, you have so many books. you literally could almost start a store, So there won't be apologies also because of the mental stuff. Okay, this is something that there can't be a way back from this one. Too many people, the two things, the mental and the fat. We can't apologize to you because you're mental fat. Mental fat, you don't get apologies, because one of these can be dealt with. It doesn't matter what you want to say, one of these can be dealt with. And it really gets to a lot of people and that's why the healthcare, food stamps, the welfare state, we're tearing it to pieces. We won't apologize because there's people who it is absolutely crystal clear. You are somebody who needs things taken away. And you're probably, a big female mental fat. We see plenty of male mental fats around. But it's just that there seems to be this cultural, sort of weird cultural acceptance, and then like female mental fats will do themselves up in a way that really attracts now a lot of attention to them, and you're just like, what is going on here? And so what's the weirdest part about this is something that I picked up on, that I really, it was one little inkling of this, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I just couldn't put it away after a while, is sort of the youth of an empire, as it's having trouble really maintaining itself, and then these youth being very upset and resentful because they're sort of not inheriting the best that the empire ever was. The empire at its most halcyon era. And that, so everything about it is sort of these foppish, weak people that they don't really know how to earn it, don't know how to maintain it. And then there was that aspect. It was because of a British person saying, well, the problem with the way America kind of as an empire now is they're not imperialists by culture. So you don't train your young to manage an empire. Because you don't train your young to manage an empire, and this person's like, well, what would you mean? And he would be like, well, in Britain, the idea that, say, during the height of the colonization of India, that you would start studying Urdu, Hindi or Urdu or something like that, like at some stage, or that you would study the language of the area that you're going to be in. or that you're planning to go to or post to or something like that, or that if you go into the Her Majesty's whatever, mighty army, that you would already have that skill, and they would post you there, and that you thought like this, that you think like this already. So Americans really, we're not really like that. There's some people. Now what's interesting is then somebody would walk through and say, wait. No, liberals are totally like that. The educated class, you need to be more educated. Did you go to college, and how many degrees did you get? Liberals, that key to arguing with them at any one time is you're arguing about how many degrees do you have compared to them, and have you traveled? The reason why is because they're imperialists. Like I couldn't escape it after a while, that all these people had been to Bali. I would always get that wrong, Mali, and then I'm like, no, not Mali, Bali, and that they, or something, or they had been to Thailand or Bali, or and just this endless, and this was just the norm. It became finally a weird norm that I just had not heard enough white women talk about just how amazing their education and their experience, and Bali, and the food, and the food, and the food, and the people, and the food, and that it also always depended, or typically depended upon having a friend in Bali. So these stories would always be these highly educated females who all had gone to Bali at some point and stayed someplace where there were Americans. I mean, there was nothing more, and I can't even really walk through how many imperialistic stories like this that I've heard, and then kind of these complete misunderstandings about other cultures based on what really is an imperialist kind of thinking of like, well, how could they still think things like that? Science, but science, women's rights, I mean, come on. I can't even do like the goofy vocal timbre thing that goes on with a lot of this, and so I've had to sit back, and I'm like, there's absolutely not going to be apologies for any of this, because what we're doing is, within about a year's time, a lot about FDR and LBJ and everything they created is going to be just blown to atoms. Nobody ever talks about, they want to talk about Elon, but who helped FDR write the New Deal? Like, who were these guys? Who oversaw it? We never discussed that. Everyone wants to complain about Elon, but they don't want to ever talk about who was there with FDR and the New Deal. Who are the New Dealers? Now, there's a historian who writes about this, and actually, it's Thaddeus Russell, and it was amazing because the pattern, the generational pattern showed. When everybody was living it up during the jazz era, one of these New Dealers, he liked marching, he liked formation, he liked his state's militia, stuff like that. Now, people would get this all wrong about like the party and the culture and stuff. He didn't like fun. He thought people needed to be serious and dedicated to something that helped their country. They needed to understand the importance of what he thought was important. So it wasn't that you should be able to live your life as you wish. The government should be open and clear and accountable. No. That maybe we should, that there's a certain amount of pitching in that a certain level of the industrial giants of the day could do, which that happens with FDR, because I mean he totally becomes dictator over the economy. Mussolini quoted, Mussolini envied FDR's power. He openly envied FDR's power. The power handed to FDR too by Congress, because they had to solve a crisis. There was a crisis, and only FDR and his brilliance could solve it. But we never talk about the New Dealers. We're meeting all the people who are a part of all of this. When there's regular posts by all of them about what they're doing. Total transparency if you're looking for the information. I love how Destiny openly lied about that. Oh, and they're not even making these clear and da-da-da. It was that there's no clarity, and then he talks about some extremely specific thing that he wants to know about. And apparently, he wasn't posted on his timeline, so therefore it just doesn't exist. And there's no clarity there. Nobody knows what's going on. Because Destiny doesn't know. Somebody who has trouble reading a whole book. Guy who needs lots of brain drugs so he could read a book. And that's who we're supposed to apologize to these people. To these men who've gone out of their way to not be athletic. Gone out of their way. That they could have improved upon themselves in a wide variety of ways they didn't. MAGA, widely, one of the most interesting things about it was the merging of the manosphere and the merging of America First and MAGA was all the young men who stopped drinking and stopped doing any form of drugs, even stuff that was supposed to benefit them. And they were like, I'm sure there's another way to do this. And that there's incredible posts all over YouTube about people who've improved their mental health, improved their physical health. Sometimes there were even people who were like to the point where they thought they had a chronic illness of some sort. And it just turned out that they just had to embrace the correct way of eating. And they had to start embracing like the correct way of males living and making sure that you kept up your muscle mass and you kept your body fat ideally at about 5%, 5 to 10%, and all these other things that it's like, if you do that, your life is going to be nice and long and rather healthy, and you won't have to see the doctor about a lot of things, and that's just how it is. Holy shit. Okay, this is not fun. All right, we're gonna just do this a different way. All right. Okay. So there won't be any apologies about this. There won't be suddenly, we couldn't believe that, like, the law said we were correct, but it just took going up the legal chain and through the process, and so we were right. And we won't apologize that we were right. It's not happening. And a lot of people just need to get like, no. And then on top of it, you guys are starting to make this like such an asinine kind of, what the fuck is happening? This is bizarre. Like, it's really, really long strings of traffic that are starting to happen, and I don't see this almost ever in this neighborhood at this time. I'm really hoping nobody stops in a weird way, makes it awkward. There we go. Oh my fucking god. And then another car whips out. Holy fucking shit. Okay. So, So yeah, that was pretty much what I wanted to, because there was a message that I got left for me that I was like, I think I'm getting the gist of this from what I'm seeing in the preview. And then there was a part of it that I definitely picked up on from social media that I was like, oh, okay, no. There's not going to be we made some horrible error. How will you ever forgive us? And it's like, no, what are you talking about? Like, we're like incredibly powerfully winning. This is insane. Like how many wins we're getting, because almost everything you guys like from the welfare state, just ending it is good. And now what's really interesting is seeing what lawsuits are really being focused on. One is the Institute for Peace. That one is very interesting, that they are really, really pissed about that. Because the Institute for Peace, what everyone's figuring the Institute for Peace was fundamentally the hub of our dealings with rat lines that had to do with narcotics across the world. That's what the rumor is about the Institute for Peace. And when you hear the stories about, like, it's palatial, it's like some kind of castle inside, and that the people who work there just are ballers who get like tremendous fucking perks, and it's one of those it's one of those things that if you know about the senior executive service and the rumors around the senior executive service, it really makes you kind of wonder, like, I'm betting this was like the jewel of the SES. Like, if this is what you wanted, this is where the boss, this is Johnny Sack's operation, everybody else is doing minor things, but this is Johnny Sack's specific room he's in. It's all gold, and there's nothing but people who money is counted for in there, smoking cigars, probably drinking coffee and smoking big cigars. Yeah. All right. Talk to you guys soon.